All right, Nicholas, how's it going?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, things are a little crazy, obviously, in the world right now, but I'm
Oh,
grateful to be safe at home.
yeah,
So,
same here.
okay, now you shared in the meeting invite a little bit about yourself. I'll just go ahead and read that. That you want to, let's see, you talked to an art director from Ubisoft, and he said that your visual effects is great for gameplay communication, but they don't have that magic, and you want to get
Yeah,
that magic, whatever that is
yeah,
in air quotes, right?
yeah,
So hopefully we can help you find that magic. And you said also that there's a couple more things that you wanted to upload, to update. Are they all here on
yeah. I
your
did one
portfolio
more
page?
personal project. All of my VFX are for our card game, which I have worked on for the last 2 years.
Okay.
And
So are they in here or
um,
are they in?
yeah, real-time FX.
Oh, I see. I just scroll down further.
And so I did one big personal project, which is the oil explosion, the first one. I did that after doing the class.
Cool.
And I made three levels of that.
So there's a little one, little spark
Yeah.
and smoke. There's a bigger one. Nice. That's pretty fun. So this is what the art director saw when he said that magic.
No, that he didn't saw. That is really new. I just finished it this week.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Yeah, I really like it. That's really cool. I like the big one. I think that you could stage this differently for portfolio reasons. That you could do like little one, medium sized one, big one. Yeah, kind of like what you're doing here, but just like skip straight to that. You know what I'm saying? Where you're just showing them with just the still camera and yeah, I don't think the camera moves are necessary because to me it's just like I want to get to the punchline and you're not
Okay.
starting with the strongest one. Obviously the
Mm,
strongest one is going to be the biggest one, right?
I
And
see.
so you kind of want to just show that boom, 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 and that would be really cool to kind of see them all together, like slightly overlapped with each other, like it's kind of one sequence of events. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can see that.
Because they do blend nicely together and they have like the same drift of the wind kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
I don't know, I really like that big one. Let's take a look at it again. I think the trouble I'm having with it is it's a little bit of conflict in the directionality of things. So, like a great example is you've got like a plus sign here, where
Uh
one element is oriented like this, the other element is oriented like that. I think
okay.
and like these are kind of squished flat where they should be squished long probably because they're shooting outward. So you've got them going out like this, which feels weird
Hmm.
to me. They should probably be more like this. That makes sense. And the same
Yeah,
thing
it
is
does.
happening in the sort of ribbons of fire in the center as well. They're kind of crisscrossing as well, which tells me a mixed story about how the impact is playing out. They're not always crisscrossing though. It's probably because you have a random
Yeah, I
rotation.
wanted to give this feeling of um when oil explodes, I feel like it's this boom boom boom.
Yeah. So this is beautiful right here. I actually love the the slight difference in rotations, but then the trouble comes when you have like this
Okay, I
diagonal one in
see.
here that's just kind of fighting. It's like it's coming from over here and emanating up this way for some reason, and it's not making sense, and it's pulling apart the overall illusion. So just watching how much these things are rotating apart from each other and where they're positioned so that it's great that you have it randomized. I think that's really smart. And these bits flying up are really, really cool. I really want to showcase this now on the social medias because I'm like, this is such a cool effect. Um, so yeah, rotating them. so that they kind of more or less emanate from the same area, but just so they're not like colliding with each other and crisscrossing.
Hmm.
That'd be my
I see.
biggest thought, but like the timing is just solid. Let me just see that again. The timing could be a little punchier, a little punchier. It's pretty
With
good
punchier,
overall.
you mean?
Yeah, I mean punchier like so after it explodes, the problem I'm having is you've got a lot of intensity going on. So you've got all these smaller explosions, but
Mm-hmm.
none of them are really playing out with the silhouette because they're surrounded by other yellow elements. So you've got these little yellow elements that are doing the boom boom boom, right? Which is
Uh-huh.
great timing, but because of the composition, the sort of the orangish like glowing clouds behind them sort of hide that pulsing feeling that you want.
I see.
You know what I'm saying? So maybe if you just delayed the orange clouds a little bit, just a little bit, enough to give the silhouettes of those pops to read. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like pop, 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 and then the orange glows just a fraction of a second after that. I think it would play out better. So it's like a composition challenge slash timing challenge because right now it's
Yeah,
just
I
kind
see.
of a busy mess in the middle there. It's Yeah, it might be too that like the outro, and that's the smaller one I know, but like I can see it more clearly on the smaller one, that the outro on those blips, no, getting them out is fine. I think like having them fade out pretty quickly is working for you because it shifts all the focus up to the clouds. Maybe you have something that's fiery that lasts a little bit longer. Because when
Mm-hmm.
something this big explodes, there's a little bit of flame that sort of lingers around a little bit. That might be the ring on the ground that you've got growing out is one option where, right now it just kind of goes out and then fades away very evenly.
Mm-hmm.
But you could definitely do something with that where it's sort of like it like slowly washes, like it goes out quickly and then it slowly kind of washes and tumbles. I love that element. Is that using the shader from the class? That
What?
that that ring that comes out?
No, all the textures and all materials I've done myself.
Oh wow. Good on you. Yeah, this is just great. Like so many of these still frames are just so pretty. I love that the cloud is lit. You've got nice lighting, or is that just like shards of things popping out of it?
That's just a plane with a lighting, a base glow texture in it, and they just sharp
Dude,
through the element.
it looks like it's lighting. I'm going to use that. That's genius. It looks like lighting is hitting that smoke cloud. Oh, I love that. Just makes my heart sing. Yeah, the double pulse is kind of lost on me. I'll be honest with you, because you have two rings coming out, like boom, boom. I think you just need to adjust the timing on those so that it's like boom, boom, like
Mm.
get it bigger quicker and then the next one will be able to read a little better. Whereas when you have one sliding and then another sliding, they kind of just meld together.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's really rad. Good stuff. All right. So which one would you like me to look at next?
Maybe just the next directly. This one is done for our game. Um, it's probably half a year ago.
Hmm.
This is one of the art director saw.
Yeah, I mean, I think what it is like your other effect is just worlds ahead as far as polish goes, right? Like you've put so much effort and energy into the other one with different emitters and like the composition and the timing and stuff. Whereas with this one, it's very simple, which might be a game engine constraint, honestly. I don't know if this has to run on mobile, I'm assuming, right?
We want to go for mobile, or we wanted to go for mobile.
Yeah. Oh, did it get canceled? Or
Yeah.
did it oh, sad. Sad face. Um, do you have a way then to edit this effect to improve it?
I could. go in there every day.
Okay, so you can still make changes and update your
Yeah,
portfolio with it.
it was a little indie project, so
Oh, okay, I'm with you now. Okay, so yeah, really what it is right now that texture slash material here is just a very, very simple white ball with some sharp shards coming off of it. And it's not much to look at as far as um, what am I trying to say? Like, it's not giving me a lot of delight as far as how it's moving or the colors that it's transitioning through or those kinds of things. So I
mm.
think it's an opportunity to go in and just refine the texture and how the material animates. So tell me about this. Is this like a flip book? Is it a dissolve map? How is it animating?
uh, the animation actually comes from a scale.
The scale.
So
Okay.
there's no animation in there as far as I know. I think the smoke is a flip book though.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm seeing like some kind of simulation flip book, right? Like it's like a smoke sim or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. That I think that's a problem with that effect too, is that right now, with the new effect, I only use hand painted stuff, and with that, I mixed hand painted and simulated stuff. So I got this anime crosses, but also this smoke sim.
Yeah. Like I think you can have a cloud of smoke in the middle though, but you're right. Um, having it the way that it is going to fight. Let me look this up. This is the League of Legends VFX style guide. Okay, we'll bring this over here. So in the League of Legends VFX style guide, it talks about this exact thing. That if you want to do sort of a bursty cloud, well, here's an example here. First off, that it has these different elements, and I wonder if in here is where he shows. Okay, so that's that part. Yeah, so here it is shown from another angle of there's the texture on the ground that's like the bursty sort of cloudy texture, and then there's a few cloud shapes. Like each one of these, like that's a particle, that's a particle, that's a particle, that's a particle. And so they're velocity aligned particles that kind of look like this, and they
Mm.
sort of shoot out, but they're sort of fuzzy how they're painted, right? And then they have this on the back side of them, they have this like kind of edge as well. So as they come out, you can kind of dissolve up towards the tips if you'd like. And you can get a lot more interesting motion that way. Also, there's like a spark element in the middle that's a different particle. And then there's some other sparks out here. So what they're saying is when you're doing an explosion, for this kind of composition of something that feels really magical, really otherworldly, to avoid a simulation flipbook and go with elements that combine together to make up the whole explosion.
Mm.
So lots of little elements to create one body of explosion, and then the internal motion will feel a lot more interesting. The caveat to this is if you know how to use Houdini or Maya or all these other pre-rendered programs to get an awesome looking magical cloud that has this really interesting roll to it and dissipation and it feels just really, really cool, then go for it. And by all means, use that method, right? But
Mhm.
if your goal is to achieve something really magical feeling, it can't be just the base default Houdini explosion
Yeah, I can
or
see
Maya
that.
explosion. It's just going to feel like a regular explosion that, even in a game that is more realistic, it's probably not going to hold up very well with just the default settings. You usually need something like, you want it to feel like it's rolling upward with the heat rising and expanding, or maybe they want it to be a little sharper with like shrapnel flying out of it, or there's usually something that they want to customize in a more realistic engine as well. So typically out of the box is unadvisable if it just feels like
Yeah.
your standard explosion. Now, there are places to use it, and if you're a very skilled artist in that style, you can pull it off. But for our purposes here, I would recommend going with something more like that. So yeah, I think the very clear ring is unnecessary because it's not really an AoE effect. Like it's not a clear, crisp AoE here, right? You're just showing damage is happening all over the place. And
Yeah,
so
I see.
again, it sort of nerfs the ability for it to feel free and magic and organic. So probably break up that ring into like erase apart edges or parts of it or tone it down or something so that you can still get the shockwave feeling, but it doesn't feel like a piece of UI happening over and over
Mm.
again.
Yeah, I see.
And then on the ground cracks, I think just because it's repeated so much, it really puts a big burden on you to make that painting of that ground crack feel really, really good. The problem with it now is that it feels like a stamp that's just purely black, and I'm not seeing beveled edges. Like I'm not seeing chunks of the ground, like whole planes that are colored differently because they're tilted from the light.
Mm.
Like you could really amp up that texture. Also, I'm not sure that it matches with what's happening. So what it looks like is like a sword stabbed into the ground because it has
Ah.
that big dark hole in the center of it. Whereas an explosion like this would probably create more of a dent in the ground, like a crater feeling, right? Um, so painting it to feel more like a dented crater versus that, I think is good. I think your shapes are decent, but they're probably more detailed than they need to be. So if you look at the level of detail in the map itself,
Mm.
like all around, there's just like little light touches of cracks here and there, but like these are very big and gradual direction changes compared to these tiny, tiny, tiny little bits in here.
Mm. Yeah, I can see that.
So that would be my notes there. I think the glowiness too could animate in a way that feels a little more interesting. So like you've got the glowy crack thing going on,
Mm-hmm.
and again, it's probably busier and more detailed than it needs to be, but also work in some kind of dissolve so that it like animates away and eats away over time. Be super cool.
Oh, that makes sense.
If it's electricity that you're trying to tie in, then it ought to have a little bit of aftermath, a little bit of electric static that just kind of lingers afterwards, like bzz, 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 you know, just very subtle on each one that kind of randomly zaps around. Because I see electricity in the foreground here.
Yeah.
I think that electricity could use a little bit of love too, to have it animate. In the class, we talk about animating electricity and getting it to have this nice wiggle to it and so forth. And there's a few different types of electricity that we have that you can kind of look at. How long have you been in
Mm.
the class?
I bought it on the first day. I have used it probably after 3 months or something because I
Hmm.
was working on another game. We made a little third person game which is still under NDA.
Hmm.
So this was really crunchy because we said we made it in 4 months and now we're in month 8 and we're almost finished.
Oh, wow. Crazy times.
Yep.
So this is sleeping particle. And then, yeah, I don't know. I think the motion on this is just so straightforward that it could use some personality. So the idea is that it's locking up, right?
Yeah.
So number one, I would look at the timing. So you've got these locks coming in very gradually, and then the chains come in very gradually. You might want to make it feel like this, like, like it's like,
Mm.
gotcha, like more impactful. As it stands now, it's sort of like, oh, I'll capture you, you're captured, and it's not conveying a lot of energy and personality in that way. I think also the way it moves is so linear in its pathway. So like this chain just sort of slides across.
Yeah.
if you could find some way, maybe it's with vertex offset or something, to make the chain sort of wobble before it like snaps to become straight, so it like comes in more organically and then does that, be really nice. Also, the design of the chain itself feels out of place for the design of the game. The game has like all of these like sort of organic shapes that sort of are worn and all these things, whereas these chain links to me feel very geometric, very symmetrical, very clean and clear. They don't have this sort of character to them that you see throughout the rest of this. I mean, the icons here and the borders of the cards and everything else feels like it's very grounded um, in a world that's very fantastical and not like our world. So that's something to think about. Also, it feels kind of incomplete because the chain isn't really locking to anything. I think you
Mm,
could probably simplify this down. You probably only need two chains. You don't need the third one. And you could sort of space these out a bit and then have the locking mechanism receive it on the other end. And like when it hits it, there's like a poof or something like particles so that it like
mm,
clangs shut and it's like the magic seal is established, right? Um, it's also very monochromatic.
yeah,
So take a look at what kind of color palette you might use to make it more than just white. It has like a touch of purple a little bit.
yeah, but it's not much. It's just bland.
Hmm.
I it's funny because these are the VFX I've done, but right now I currently probably want to leave them all out of my. They're more for functionality, I think, right now.
I mean, yeah, they work for showing the gameplay for sure. Like they tell you what's happening, which is pretty cool. But they could use some love if you wanted to use them as portfolio pieces. Yeah, yeah. This circling around, is this dragons or koi fish?
The souls.
They're souls. Okay. I say that they're creatures because it almost looks like they have a head.
Yeah,
Um,
that I wanted to go for that,
if you want,
but
sorry, go ahead.
hmm? No, it's fine. Just
Yeah, so if you want to show that they're like a soul, then probably have like a hot point, like a heart inside of it, and maybe it's emitting some particles that kind of drift out behind, right? And
hmm,
then probably some kind of animation that happens in here, whether you do a flip book or something, to get this to sort of wisp and wiggle and do its thing instead of just being a static silhouette.
yeah.
That would really make it feel magical and really interesting. I think too, it's hard because the colors are not really popping for me. They're kind of washed out yellow, especially when it's over here on the yellow, and the red isn't super vibrant. The way to fix that is to put some darker colors beneath it and like some darker wisps or something so that the additive can sit on top and just really shine up, feel nice, magical. Yeah.
Could we go for maybe that one?
Set the timer, went
Yeah,
back in
it's
time.
uh, uh, time curvature means Zeitkrümmung in German, and it's you basically draw three cards. That's the idea behind it. So you break time to get more resources.
All right, because if I could break time, that's what I would do with it. Just kidding.
Yeah,
Games be games, right? Game logic.
yeah.
All right, all right. So I think with the theme of time, if you have the resources to do like distortion, like you can have it like distort the environment behind it. I think the timing that you've got on the little motes that kind of like bob out and come back in is really fun, actually. I really like those. I think they're kind of getting lost in the motion of everything else. I mean, the clock that you've got um, is very distracting. That it's like very hard lines growing outward, And so
Mm-hmm.
that becomes the focal point the moment that it comes into the frame. But also the center rotating, the rotate hourglass, I know what that's called, is is brighter and moving faster. And so they're competing with each other because one's big and has lots of detail, and the other one's bright and moving fast. And so it's hard to know where to look, and there's not a clear focal point. And so I think this one could benefit a lot from a paint over of like painting out what you think would be a cool still frame and
Mm-hmm.
get it to feel like this nice clock with elements, and you've got the little bits flying in and out. This one's also super monochromatic. It's just the yellow. I think you could play around with that. Like maybe there's some blue energy in there, maybe some pinks or oranges or whatnot. Typically, I try to avoid purple when I'm working with yellow. That's just a tip, just because they clash really easily. But
Mm-hmm.
most every other color you might want to try is on the board to attempt. Yeah, I
Yeah,
will
I see.
say I do like the material you've got over here. Was this you?
Yeah, this was also me. I did
You did what?
I did the whole map, everything.
Oh, you did the environment too?
Also the cards.
Oh my gosh. Well then, well done. Yeah, you really were working under time constraints to get everything done. That's crazy.
Yeah, we are just 5 people working on that for 2 years. And we started out from university, so I haven't, this is one of my first VFX I've ever done.
Oh, well, hey, there you go. More power to you then. Oh, that's cool. That's a nice little effect. The timing is great. The wind up, like I know where to look when it starts. It's very satisfying when it hits. The shape profile is really interesting. How it like sort of like goes more horizontal when it hits, and then the follow through with the specs is really really nice. I think
Cool.
everything maybe ends at too much exactly the same moment. That's just a little
Mm-hmm.
preference. Like these all die and then twinkle and then disappear at the exact same moment at each stage, right?
Yeah.
And so maybe a little bit of offsets there would be really nice. But the wind up and then the launching and all that, it's nice. These kinds of effects, when I see them in a portfolio, I think, oh, okay, like they can do a low scope, straightforward effect. That's really good to know. This is like an auto attack ability or like, a very low power level of damage ability. It's just very direct. But
Mm-hmm.
then I always wonder, okay, so they can do that, but can they do like the ultimate level ability where it's a game changer and it's this high moment of gameplay where it's a spectacle? Now, you did show that with the oil explosion as well. So I think it's good to have both in your portfolio of like doing the straightforward stuff, but also doing the big grandiose stuff as well.
For portfolio purposes, uh,
Yep.
I got one big question. I'm currently
Mhm.
working because Corona is canceling basically everything, and
Mhm.
I wanted to rework my portfolio, which started with the oil explosion. What I wanted to do afterwards was one interaction, um, maybe some sparks that attack or something, and a loot box. Because I think every game today has a loot box.
It's true. The boxes are all the rage. Okay,
uh,
so yeah, those are great things to have in a portfolio for sure.
okay, so that's the right way to go because I think I can do more than I show right now, which is if you say the explosion is cool, I think it's cool too, but you're always looking at your own art a little bit different than others.
No, yeah, if you had a few things as good as that explosion, I think you'd have a fantastic portfolio. So here's the thing, all of these different card effects, like you could probably consolidate them into one demo reel
Mm-hmm.
because they're pretty low scope. Like, that ice hit and then the time one and then, like especially this is like super straightforward, super simplistic. It does not
Mm-hmm.
need its own video. And so I would recommend. Oh, that's cool. I can mouse over and see them preview. Oh, that one's cool. I want to see that one. Also, it gives you a little more control about what's first in your portfolio. Like some of these that are a little bit higher scope would be
Hmm.
better shown at the beginning or towards the beginning of your portfolio, where like that hammer hit would be towards the end and things like that. This one, I think, you could just use some. I think it's funny because I'm giving you this feedback, but my sense is based on what I see in the oil explosion, I think you know how to improve these. Maybe
Yeah,
you were rushed for time or something. Like,
yeah. All those effects I did in the game were probably done in about a day or two.
yeah, and early on,
Yeah, and early on.
and so I've kind of gone through a few. I don't think we need to beat a dead horse, but like,
Yeah,
I think I
probably
think
not.
we're good on that front. But I just want to say, like, for you now, it's just a matter of volume. I think you have the skills as showcased here. I want to see this one though. I'm curious about this one. Yeah, yeah, you could make this something amazing now. Like fill that out because it's so like stringy and faint, and it
Yeah,
feels
well,
like very
for
early.
that, I think actually I think it's needed because it's just a target marker in the game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the thing I would change is that it's very busy, like just those
Hmm.
little sharp shapes over and over again, and
Yeah, I
um,
see.
you could probably tie those into like an actual wisp as well. So it maybe does have these little bits, but it's also got
Hmm.
some wispiness to it to fill it out. And
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, that I
and
can
there's
see.
no clear focal point because you've got the arrow that has the most contrast with those dark blues and
Mm.
the thin hyper white line that's very sharp. But then also it's a big area of white at the bottom. So I think it could use a paint over of like all the skills that you're learning in the class of like focal point and how to draw the eye and how to build your shapes together. It could use a lot more organic elements to it, unless you want it to be a technology thing, in which case you could probably just lose those spiraling elements altogether. Like if
Yeah,
it
I can
was
see
just the
that.
ring on the
Be-
ground and just the V, that might be sufficient also. But if you want it to have that organic vibe to it of energy flowing down, then you're going to want to do a paint over to get that.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, you're
But
right.
yeah. Now you know how to get magic in your portfolio.
Well, easier than expected.
Easy peasy. Now you're just stuck at home. You just spend hours and hours on this. No, it's
Oh.
steady as she goes, just like one thing at a time. Focus on just one project at a time. You don't necessarily have to go back to the card game projects if you want to do one from scratch. That might be just as strong for you. When you are ready to show your portfolio, though, I would recommend consolidating the card game videos because at first glance, I'm assuming I'm going to see like a ton of effects, and they're all going to be really like exciting. But where some
Mm.
of them are so small, I find myself clicking, and I'm like, oh, I wish I had seen something bigger. So that's kind of cool. Yeah. Yeah, you might even just put once you get more work, you might even just put all your card game stuff into one video.
Yeah, I think so too. I but I already yeah, it just makes sense. If so, you think they are showable, but they're not showable enough to make them their own, basically.
Yeah. Well, especially you think about the user experience. Like I, as the reviewer, am a user, and
Hmm.
I don't want to have to click 3 times to see one new video.
Yeah,
Like I'm
I can
kind
see
of
that.
I'm typically in a rush. I typically have other things to do. I have a meeting I need to get to, and I have to review this candidate. And so as few clicks as possible is ideal. So even just one reel that has everything in it is often better. Or if these are already animating somehow when I load in, that's even better. But
Hmm.
here it only animates the one that I mouse over. I don't know if you can change that, but um, yeah. So that'd be my thoughts.
Okay, cool.
Cool, man. It's been a pleasure meeting you.
Nice meeting you finally.
Yeah. Good
Been
luck
looking
at.
your videos for a while.
Oh, cool. I'm glad that you've been liking them. I mean, it seems to be helping. I'm seeing a clear growth from your card game stuff, and then I'm sure the stuff you're doing that's under NDA is going to be amazing too, compared to the card game stuff as well. So, like, that'll be exciting when you can post that, right?
Yay.
Cool,
Yeah,
Nicholas.
I hope so.
Well, you have a good day, okay?
Have a nice day.
All right, bye.
Thank you for your time.